Hello, Tara. How are you?
I'm amazing as always,
Yes,
right?
I'm so excited to have you on the summit. I know that you are the financial guru for empowering women and men on how to take their vision to business. In how many days?
Well, I do it in 2 days, but I
Oh,
provide
whoa.
I provide so much value in those 2 days. People get addicted to their power, and then they end up working with me for the next 6 months. So it's
Well,
a process.
that is awesome. So, how did you get into coaching? I know a little bit about your background that you were selling art on a cruise ship. So, how did you go from selling art on a cruise ship to coaching people on how to manifest their vision into business?
Well, it was a little there was a little more in between there than that.
Right? That's what I want to
Yeah,
hear about.
I went on cruise ships as a massage therapist, believe it or not.
Wow.
And because as a small child, I don't know if it's just a gift or something, my dad was always into multi-level marketing companies. And so when we were they didn't have podcasts back then. They had tapes, cassette tapes. And so anytime we were cruising around in his super ugly beater car, we'd be listening to these tapes on how to get rich and how to build wealth. And what really always stuck in my mind was that they all were saying the same thing. They all were saying, money is everywhere. Money is everywhere. And that really stuck to me as a small child. And so when I was on cruise ships and I was working 6 days a week and I was destroying my body from doing 10 treatments a day, I was like, okay, I'm making decent money. And if there's more money everywhere, where's the money on this ship? And so I realized quickly that the money on the ship was being made by the art auctioneer. And so
Mm.
I went to an auction, just sat in on one on my day off, and I thought, I can totally do this. So I just threw myself in the deep end. I became an assistant to an art auctioneer and worked my way up to the top female in the company.
Wow.
And long story short, I ended up quitting, starting my own media production company in the financial world because I wanted to learn about stock markets. I wanted to
Mm.
learn where money lives, how money breathes, and it just so happens that it's all in the markets. So I learned that language. I learned the language of trading and commodities and what really like was the heartbeat of that, which the heartbeat of that is risk, by the way, and being willing
Great.
to take risk. That's the heartbeat of the stock market, is how willing are you to take risks, which really boils down to everything that you're talking about on this summit, which is fear,
Yes.
right? How do you handle your fear? And so I handled my fear by stepping into it. And so I went from my media production company to being a mom, which really screwed me up.
That's very brave.
That's very brave, and there's no manual for that. There's no consistency. It's all a big fat risk, but you don't know what you're risking on a day to day. And what it really boiled down to was, what the biggest risk I was taking was not shining anymore,
Mm.
was not letting my raw, real, authentic self shine in a way that I knew. And since I've taken that journey, I started 2 years ago. Since taking the journey, I've realized that I truly believe that every woman has a powerful, profitable, and impactful business inside of them that God has called them to create.
Well, that's a great point that you bring up, because a lot of women that I talk to are like, I want to learn how to make a six-figure income working part-time with your book, but I know that I'll never do that working my 9 to 5, $40 an hour job. I mean,
Mhm.
40-hour a week job. So how can I figure out, like, what is my side hustle going to be? How am I going to create six figures working part-time if I don't even know what to do? And I know that your expertise lies in, one of your many expertise is how to help women figure out what that side hustle could be. So how do you help women do that?
Well, I was the queen of side hustles when I was a mom. I think I started with Isogenics. I started with Stella and Dot. I moved into Isogenics, and then I did Rodan and Fields. And then I actually started a photography company because I just wanted something I could like attach my purpose to, because I knew I could do something. I wasn't just going to be a mom. And so I was the queen of side hustle. And what I really realized looking back on that, if I could say one thing to myself in those moments, is that, Tara, why are you making this all about you? Like, if your side hustle has anything to do with you, with the products you're selling, with the services you're offering, with who you get to show up as, you know, then that's not, you may make six figures doing that, but it's not going to fill you up. And it's certainly not going to do the world the service that it needs to. So if you want to work part-time and have a side hustle, you got to serve. The first thing you've got to figure out, the first thing you've got to figure out is, who do I serve? It's funny, I'm doing a mastermind right now. It was my birthday a couple weeks ago, so I did this launch, 35 days of sales and enrollment coaching with me. And it's funny because I've learned in this industry that you've got to sell them what they want and then give them what they need. See, everyone in my on this summit and in my audience, all they want is money. Like, just give me some money, right? And so this is what I sold them. I sold them, I'm going to teach you how to do sales and enrollment and cash inject into your business before Christmas.
Right. Everybody wants money before Christmas.
Everybody wants that, and they want to grow their businesses, and they want to learn a few things along the way. And what I'm giving them is, who do you serve? Because I know that when you figure out your avatar, figure out your niche market, figure out who it is that you can really make a difference for in this world, you create so much space around you that the money can't help but flow in.
I love that shift, because especially in this society, we're in a consumer-driven acquisition society where I want. This is what I need. I need this purse. I need this dress. I need this vacation. And it's all about acquisition. And it's kind of counterintuitive to think that you can actually manifest money by being of service. Like, that is a great distinction that you just made.
It's the only way.
And speaking of that, she is going to be of service. At the end of this, we're going to talk about a really cool gift that she's going to offer you. So how does someone figure out how they want to serve? Like, do you have an example of one of your success stories of maybe someone who didn't know how they wanted to serve or who their avatar was going to be, and then they were able to figure that out and then make money?
Yeah. So I often serve women between the ages of about 35 to 45 who are in that awkward stage, not necessarily just moms. A lot of times I'm working with women who have older children, and they're just realizing, like, hey, or corporate American women who are like, they want to break out. They want to matter. They know they can work hard. They know they've got work ethic. They know that they've got tenacity and rigor and depth and drive, but they want their work to matter.
Yeah.
Like, they want to build a legacy. So I often work with women who I call it itching from the inside out. They just know they're called for more. And so when they come to me, they often have no clue. They're like, Tara, a lot of times they're crying. A lot of times they just are at a point of desperation. They feel like they don't matter, like they've wasted their time, that nobody, all the victim conversations. And what I do is I hold them high and I say, okay, so we start with what's possible and what do you want? Like, let's just start with what you want, not in business, not in anything, like in general. Do you want to help? How's your marriage? How's your parenting? How is your job? What do you want? And from there, I take them into, what is it costing you not to have this in your life? Because it's costing us all something.
Yeah.
Right? As you know, it's costing us something not to be showing up in the highest version of ourselves. And by that point, because every case is different, Rebecca, by that point, I can hear their heart. I can feel where their passion lies. And I can relate it back to either a previous client of mine who's had success, or most times, because we usually attract people who are just like us.
Right.
I generally can relate it back to me and who I was 2 years ago. And so I just walk them through that. And I say, listen, if I could fill, this is the one question I ask that really helps narrow it down, that may serve you, is if I could fill a room full of 100 people, tell me who those 100 people are, what they're struggling with, and what gaps you could fill for them.
That's a really powerful question. I love that question.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been hearing a lot about this podcast called The Smart Woman Show and the Smart Woman Podcast and the Smart Woman group on Facebook. Tell people how they can tune in or be a part of your Facebook group or get some of this business-minded, wonderful wisdom that you've been sharing today.
Yeah, the Smart Woman brand just has blown up overnight. You know, I did season 1 and season 2 of my online show, much like same format as this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a friend of mine, and this is so important. I just sent an email out on who are your friends, because there's not a lot of people who have a friend who would just reach out and say, Tara, I'm going to nominate you for top 20 podcasts in Entrepreneur Magazine.
Wow.
And right. And so like that would be great. But I said, Mike, I don't have a podcast. He said, what are you talking about? You did 2 seasons of the Smart Woman Show. Just because it's on video doesn't mean it's not a podcast. Like, just upload it. Like, those are the types of people I surround myself with. So if you want to have financial success, make sure that the people that are in your corners and in your peripheral visions and in your hands, the people who you're linked arms with, number 1, they've got your back. And number 2, they're going for the same things you're going for.
Yeah.
And number 3, you're serving them. You know,
Absolutely.
It's like there's this whole kind of buzz conversation going around, like, what are the 5 closest people in your life doing for you? Well, actually the question is, what are the five, what are you doing for the 5 closest people in your life? Like, what are you doing? Who are you being for them?
Yeah, they say that your income is the average of or within 10% of the 5 people you're closest to. So if you want to up level your income, you need to find like wealthier people, but that's also kind of really like shallow. Like, what if you have like a best friend that makes less money than you? Are you supposed to just like drop them and say, oh, I'm going to find, you know, a new friend that makes more money? So what is your perception of that?
It's cool that you brought that up, because I interviewed Lori Harder. Do you know who Lori Harder is?
Yeah, she's the fitness guru. Yeah.
Yeah. I interviewed her and her book, A Tribe Called Bliss. Mm-hmm. She talks about that in her book. It's like, just because they're not, you know, they're in your life doesn't mean you have to cut them off.
Right.
You just repurpose roles for people. You know, we all have that best friend that we've had forever that we no longer have anything in common with. Mm-hmm. And maybe our incomes are totally different. One has kids, one doesn't have kids. Like, you're just totally different people now. And when you get together and you have a glass of wine, like, you have more fun than you've ever had before.
They make a lot of movies about those kind of friends, those kind of combinations. Like, the friends are totally opposite. One's kind of the lovable screw up, and the other one has, you know, their stuff together.
Yeah, but doesn't. Right?
Yeah, but really
but doesn't. That's so true. And so it's not about cutting people off. Right. It's just about repurposing people and giving them their place to shine in your life. Like, I have a best friend who's amazing. I love to drink wine with her, and we have so much fun together. I don't talk business with her. I don't talk kids with her.
Right.
I talk gossip. I talk shit smack. I talk all the things, right? And so, but then I have my friends I talk business with, that I don't talk about my problems that I'm having with my kids with. You know, it's like.
Yes, it's good to know kind of like where people fit in your life. Now, one of the concepts in my book is you have focus days where you're like, you know, pedal to the metal, nose to the grindstone, setting appointments, doing enrollment calls, as you call it in your business model. And then there's play days where you really get to kick back, go to the spa, have fun, do something like go to the park with your kids, do something fun and silly with your girlfriends. Like, how do you structure your week? Do you break it up into focus days and play days?
Yeah, so I don't do anything on the weekends.
That's great.
And because I have kids, right? My kids go, well, my Cooper, my son, he's in school. And then Capri's my 2.5-year-old. She's with a nanny Monday to Friday. And so my first appointment starts at 10 a.m. I don't do anything until 10 a.m. And then I don't do anything after 4 p.m. So, and then weekends.
You have your mornings to be there to help your kids get up and get ready for school. And then you have your evenings to be with your kids and your husband. So
yeah.
If you could talk about to my viewers that you're making more money than you ever have and you're working less hours, that's kind of the concept of the book, that when you have your life in balance, things just seem to flow and the money comes in, and it doesn't have to be like white knuckling it and working 80 hours a week, and you still have time for your friends and your workouts and your family life. So if you could talk a little bit about how everything seems to flow when you allow yourself to have some space in your schedule.
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is that I would not consider myself balanced. And I've yet to really meet anybody who is balanced, because as a focus-driven entrepreneur, when you're focused, like, let's be clear, like, especially if you're being successful, you are all into that moment, and there's stuff around you that's bleeding everywhere.
Right.
Right. Like when I go into a summit, there's areas of my business that bleed. My time with my kids bleeds because I'm like up with my VA or like maybe it's 7:00 and my VA has a question and I'm on my phone. So there are areas where I break contract with myself and I'm not in that 10 to 4 p.m. balance.
Right.
And I give myself that grace.
Yes.
Right. Because nothing big happens in balance. It just doesn't. I mean, not until later anyways. Right now I still very much am in the thick of building my business.
Right.
And so I wouldn't say I'm balanced at all. What I would say is that I do give myself grace.
That is good. So when you have time away, like, do you take vacations? Do you have time where you actually don't take business calls, even though you're in your building phase, to kind of put some boundaries around your time and your family life?
Yeah. So here's what's interesting about your tribe is when you take vacations with your friends, now where you want to spend your vacations and with the time that you want to spend people with are people who are just like you.
Right.
So like we just went to Barbados with Shanda Sumter and Christine Campbell Pate, right? Like these are driven entrepreneurs. And so when we get together, business seeps in, but it's because it's what we love to talk about.
But what I love with Shanda, and I know we'll get there one day, is she takes the 4th week of every month off. Like,
she does. And
I think
that is something I'm trying to implement in my business.
Yeah, I mean, that's a goal that we're aspiring to, but you know, she works 21 days hard, pedal to the metal. It's kind of like, do you know what HIIT training is? High intensity interval training.
Yeah.
It's a big trend in working out, and one of our other experts is like a HIIT training guru, but it kind of reminds me of HIIT training. Like you're on the treadmill and you're sprinting, because you know in a couple minutes you're going to get a chance to catch your breath.
Love it.
And that's kind of what I think about in business. Like you can go ahead and have those focus days and really, really work hard, and, you know, maybe miss a breakfast with your kids because you know that you're going to have a little rest in a few days. So that's kind of the philosophy of the book, is like you push, and then you take a little bit of a breather so you rejuvenate and you can push again.
And I love that you're bringing this up, because if you look at my calendar for this month, that was my intention, was to start having that flex week that you're talking about, that Shanda does. It's that 4th week off completely, and she sticks to it.
Yeah.
And she does. She sticks to it. I mean, I've tried to ask her for documents for L Equity during her flex week. She goes, I'm on flex. So I'm like, okay, I get it. And so this was the very first month that I was going to implement that.
Great.
And here's where I'm giving myself grace. I've let a couple things seep in, right? Because we've got Black Friday offers coming up, and I'm not as prepared as I could be. And I get to learn from all of this.
Right. But we can mess up because we're human, and that's how we learn. But it's also good to have like the goals and the ideals about having more boundaries around our time and being like Shanda is. I mean, she doesn't take calls after a certain time in the day. And I know you're one of her clients, no matter how much she loves her clients. She's just like, nope, this is my family time. Yep. And I think that's really admirable.
It is.
So let's talk about goals. The whole point of this summit, I'm so excited, is to help people achieve their goals for 2020. A lot of people in January, when this summit's coming out, are like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this. And they get really pumped up in January. And then by the second week of February, they're like, no, it's too hard. I just can't do it. I wasn't meant to live a life of success and wealth. And I'm just going to go back to how I was being before. So what are some of your tips and tools for how people can set goals in 2020 to get to the next level of their finances and to be more financially abundant this year?
So if anybody quits second week of February, it's because they're being driven by their emotions, right? Their commitment or their goal, whichever one you want to call it. A goal is a commitment. And so maybe instead of setting goals, set commitments.
I like that.
Be really specific about your results. And this isn't new stuff. There's nothing new under the sun when it comes to goals and commitments. It's like set the time that it needs to be created by, and then move from there onto the next goal and to the next commitment. So let's say you want to lose 30 pounds. All right. When you're writing that commitment down, by when?
Yes.
Like, okay, you want to lose 30 pounds by when? 2028? Or
right.
like March 2020, because that's going to throw you into action. That's going to have you something, anchor yourself to it. So any commitment that you have, I would say, make sure you have a date and a time that you can anchor yourself to it. Also, if you find yourself wanting to quit your goal or your commitment, just remember you're being fueled by your emotions and your commitments, your business, your relationships. I mean, look at marriage. Nobody's marriage would last if we just operated on our emotions. It's the same thing with your goals and your commitments. It's a relationship. You get to be driven by your commitment, not by your emotions.
And that goes back to being driven by your word and having integrity with your word. If you say you're going to do something by a certain date, you do it. So the real relationship is with yourself and your integrity, which fuels your commitment. So that is a really great distinction. And you're right. People make decisions based on emotion. They're like, oh, I'm never going to achieve my goals, so I'm just going to give up, instead of making a commitment and a decision and sticking to it. So I love that distinction.
That's it. And also, stretchy yet attainable, right?
Yes. What does that mean to you? Like, what would be a financial goal for someone that's stretchy yet attainable, that has never been an entrepreneur, that's only worked a 9-to-5 job?
So 6 figures in 6 months is stretchy and attainable.
Well, I have people that'll be shocked that they can make 6 figures in 6 months. That's amazing.
It's totally possible. All my clients are doing it. 6 figures in 6 months. Now, there's a strategy. There's a plan. Number 1, you don't get to quit. Number 2, you get to be coachable. You get to follow instructions, and you get to be emotionally, all the things, all the fear, all the imposter syndrome, all the I can'ts, and still do it.
Absolutely.
Right?
And how do you help people? I know you don't have a specific business in front of you, but how do you take 6 figures in 6 months and break that down into achievable goals and commitments? Do you break it down by the day, the week, the month? How do you make people, how do you make that digestible?
So I make it digestible by, I work with coaches primarily. I do have a couple companies. I have a lingerie company. I coach the CEO of that company. But really what it boils down to, and I found that I can fit this model really to anyone. I haven't found one of my clients that this doesn't work for. Because as entrepreneurs or as visionaries or creatives, we get this idea in our head that we need to be on a stage in front of 35,000 people tomorrow, right? And so my whole business model, if you really get it down to the core, is 10 at a time.
I love that.
What does it look like if you just served 10 people at a time? Because there's 6 figures in 10 people. Can you find 10 people to serve? Can you stand beside and link arms with just 10 people? Because if you can do that, and your intentions are pure and your heart is in the right place, that's easy. That's easy.
That is so beautiful, because people are like, how am I, just one individual, going to change the world? That's overwhelming. But if you say 10 people at a time, and if somebody's overwhelmed with that, just one person at a time, just one person talking to the other who's excited and passionate about their business, that can change the world, even one person at a time. If one person overwhelms you, one conversation at a time, like this conversation that we're having right here, we don't know how many people are going to listen to it or who's going to hear it exactly when they need to hear it. This one conversation is changing the world. So I love that you break it down that way. That's incredible. So I am going to ask you, how can people stay in touch with you? You have such an amazing philosophy, your passion, your enthusiasm for empowering women to actually take their ideas and turn them into real profitable businesses is so inspiring. I know people are going to want to keep in touch with you. So your social media, your podcast, Facebook, tell us how to keep in touch with you.
So I'm the only Tara Oldridge out there that looks like a normal Tara Oldridge. There's one other Tara Oldridge. That's not me. So you can find me at the Tara Oldridge pretty much everywhere. My website, my Instagram, my Facebook, my podcast. Actually, my podcast is the Smart Woman Show, hosted by Tara Oldridge. So you can find me that way.
Great. And I know that you have a special gift for the people that are listening to this. So tell us about your special gift today.
I was actually, as we were going through this, I thought, I can do one better. I can offer you the planner that I was going to offer. And then I thought, no, you know what? These people need to come to a Vision to Business event. That's what they really need, because we take your vision, we walk through the whole process that you and I just talked about, and we create a business over a weekend, over a Friday and a Saturday. And so this is a $3,000 ticket that I'm going to offer to your audience for $149.
Whoa, I'm like falling out of my chair. Whoa, yeah. That is. So
I'll offer you guys that. The promo code I think we'll use is New You 2020.
Yes, New You 2020. That is so incredible and generous. I so appreciate your time, and I know that we met at a leadership training and we did some great work together at the workshop. And I know that we're going to be friends for life and collaborate like this and many other times. And it's just such a joy to have you in my life. And this is my first summit of many to come. And when I thought about an expert in finances, you were the first person that popped into my mind. So thank you so much for joining me today, Tara. I love you so much, and have a wonderful 2020, as I'm sure you will.
I love you. And I just want to acknowledge you for a second too, Bex. I want to acknowledge you just being a huge bright light in this world. And you're right. This conversation is a ripple effect, and it's been inspired by you and your heart. And I love your book. And if there is anything that I can do for you ever, I'm your girl.
Thank you so much. Well, it was great talking to you, and we will talk to you very soon, listeners. Stay tuned. Bye.
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 Awesome. I love it.